There's all different talents and learning styles and languages and disabilities, right? It's awesome. Because it's the challenge of it is so grand, not for the teacher, but also for a student to mesh with all of that.
Exactly.
You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
Hey.
You see my pictures, Coach?
I like your rotating picture frame over there.
Yes. How are you, Coach?
What's up, buddy? Good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's
awesome.
Good to see you.
How's things, man?
Things are things, Coach.
Things are things. They sure are, right?
Look, I can't even lie. I'm kind of living my best life right now, Coach.
Wow.
Yeah.
How?
Right?
Please tell me how is that possible? Which is great. I love it.
Yeah. So I know the COVID situation, especially as a nurse, you'd be like, how are you really enjoying life right now? But right. I've kind of been taking it all in stride. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm a travel nurse. I'm young. I'm healthy, knock on wood, right? So things have been great. I have zero complaints. No one in my family personally has been affected by the COVID. Yep. Yeah. It seems like America is getting like burnt to shit right now, but but what are you going to do, Coach? You can only do what you can, right? You can only
do what you can. Right. Absolutely. So what are you traveling? Like you travel to different like hospitals? Okay.
That's exactly what I do. In fact, being a travel nurse, and it's just here it's just nationally, but like I do 3-month assignments in different places. Okay. My agency picks hospitals that have, needs, and then they send me somewhere. Right now, I'm in the board of Connecticut and New York. I'm going to be here till the end of July, and then I'm off to California. So
wow, so you're not even around here right now.
No, I'm not even in Boston. I'm right on the board of Connecticut and New York. I was in Maine for 3 months. They pay for my living. They pay for my travel. They pay. I mean, like, how can you say no?
That's right. But you're going out and you're helping people. I'm sure. I guarantee when they see you, it's like they're making their day is so much happier. Just because of what you do. So,
thank you.
I appreciate you and everything that you do on that end and everything else that, is going on with this world right now, man. So,
look, Coach, I have to say, thank you so much for doing this. Right. So this is good things. This is a personal one for me. So,
good,
ready?
Good. I'm ready.
Oh, beautiful. All right, let's get to it.
All right.
Well, welcome back, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Swadik Mayanja. You can call me Q, and yes, I am Q the Nurse. This is another episode of the Everyday Hero Show where I bring to you someone in my life or someone in your life that brings us joy, happiness, and good things, but does not get the credit that they deserve. Coach, listen, you guys, this is a personal one. This is deep for me. This is deep for me. Coach, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm just like absolutely thrilled and like completely humbled. I really am. Because they got to know who you are too, man.
That's it. Yeah.
Not a lot of people know the back. I don't know. I don't know if they know like how far you could throw a shot put.
We'll get to that in a hot second.
Well, all right, we'll get to that. You run it. Go ahead.
So, Coach, I like to start it with just the bare bones. So, for people who don't know you, who are you? Where are you from? And why teaching?
So, Mike Bauer. I'm from Newton. Went to Newton North High School. Lived in Newton basically my whole life. Did a year of prep school after high school. Was a 3-sport athlete in high school and went off to prep for 1 year. Did 3 sports there. Then went off to college at Hobart. Played baseball and football. Baseball for 1 year, but was a football captain senior year. And then kind of moved off. After college. I was an English major, Q, so I didn't what am I going to do? Right? I could write, so I was thinking about like an English teacher or just getting into writing somehow. So I got a job as a special education teacher at aide at South. I was there for like a few weeks. It was going great. And I kind of, I looked out the window and I saw this PE teacher just teaching a class, teaching kids how to play tennis. And I'm sitting there going, dude, what am I doing? That's like totally me. Right. So I just got in touch with a few people, went back to UMass Boston, basically did another year and a half of undergrad just to get my PE stuff.
Yes.
So I could get certified through the state. Did all that. One thing led to another. I got a job at Newton North back in 99 was my full-time year, but I was there for a little bit before that. I started coaching football like in 96 at Newton North for a while and track right around that same time. And just kind of been there ever since. And it's just been awesome, that's kind of like me in a little bit of a nutshell.
I love it. So a couple of things there. Was it the coaching aspect of a PE teacher that pulled you into teaching? Or was it just like, I enjoy the teaching, I did English, maybe that's the pathway I should go?
Yeah.
Or was it strictly, I think I'm a coach and let's do PE?
So, well, the thing is, I see them like very similar. I don't like,
okay.
So like teaching for me in the classroom is almost the same thing. So when we were hanging out at shot put, in the discus circle, I treated it like the same way as I would treat like a classroom. So teaching like extended itself. It was almost everywhere. So even before that, during the summer times as a kid, I was a camp counselor.
Of course.
So I did that for like, I don't know how many years. I said after my like 20th year in the recreation department, I said, I'm not quitting, I'm retiring. So I think I've always had it in me as far as like teaching goes. I've always like enjoyed that, like just helping out and guiding and,
yes.
Molding and adapting to the person, the great thing about teaching as far as my aspect goes is, I like to blend myself with the student. I don't want to impose anything of like myself on anybody. Like, who am I? Right. All I want to do is just like, help guide and create something. And so I see that in the classroom, and doing physical education and trying to get the students. I don't know if it was the same way with you in high school, but just having the students see beyond like right now and like the bigger, broader scope of health, no matter what class they're in. So I think for me, like a big challenge is like a team sports class in high school. So a team sports class is like that traditional, like you just go in there, you divide the teams up, let's play.
Yeah.
And you learn some lessons, but actually, like you said, from the whole COVID thing, we've created this great team sports, like academic side to it. Ooh. And it's been awesome. It's been great. So I just love the academic side of everything. And especially with the sports too. So I like to translate it to track and football. It's the same to me. You get, like you, man, we studied, we worked hard, we sat and looked at, we intellectualized things.
Yes.
And so when you intellectualize things better, it just creates an atmosphere of just, I don't know, of connectedness, Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And you can do that, throughout the board. So I just kind of like coaching. Yeah, it's a little bit different because there's a win and loss aspect of it. But at the same time, I also see it as if you're doing your best, then what else can you do?
Right. Yes,
so,
exactly.
And then you just got to keep doing your best after that.
That's
I think it was during the national meet, right? You said
yes.
First one, best one, keep getting better.
Exactly. First one, best one.
You gave me a heart attack and I had 2 fouls, and then and then you tied your best one.
Right. That's what matters, right? Look, listen, and I love that you said that, right? I mean, that's the perfect answer. You guys, I'm telling you, Coach Bauer is the real thing. He's the real thing. So, because you were so good at that, and that's something I remember super, super well. You were so good at blending the mind and the body, and your whole thing was like, if you could get your mind to know what to do, and if you could do it as often as possible, so you don't have to ever think about it,
right?
Everything is just better. I mean, everything. Especially when it comes to football, when it comes to track, when it comes to whatever you're doing.
Well, I'm sure like right now in your job right now, it's kind of like that. You are just like locked in, so well what you're doing, you intellectualize everything. So like you working with the people that you're working with, and that's what we've talked about this during the time that we've been at home, especially with the team sports class. It's like I'm trying to change it, or we're trying to change it to it's more of like teaming, meaning our world is made up of like people who have to get together really quick, figure stuff out, and do it right.
Yes.
And that's like exactly what you do in Swartic. It's like the same thing. It is, right? Because they're popping you to different places. So you have to like humble yourself. People have to humble themselves because there's a bigger issue going out there. They don't know you from a hole in the wall, but you have to produce.
Exactly.
And how do you do that? And that's a hard job you got, man, especially in the environment that you're in, the high intensity. So you're right. So, working with the mind is the hardest thing. The body, we can figure that stuff out. But,
So let's talk about that right now, because there've been a bunch of students. Everyone in America basically has been out of school for a while. Explain to me what this team sports, physical education outside of school thing is exactly. Because I'm a little confused as what you mean by team sports outside of the school. Like I figured that PE was just something that they were like, let's not do it, but obviously it's not. So
it's PE health and wellness.
Okay.
So there's like a broader, bigger picture that we're trying to get the kids to see.
Okay.
So it's like everything that we do has a bigger meaning to it in the grander scheme of the world when it comes to your health and everybody else's health. So for PE, what we've had the students do, every single student, like a common activity it's called the species list. So it's all different components in health. It's all the different wellness components. So you have your social health, physical, emotional, career, intellectual, environmental, and spiritual.
Ooh.
So we base it off of like a lot of that as well. So a lot of classes will be very, very physical, right? But we'll always come back to, okay, so where are you gaining social health during this? Where are you gaining intellectual health? So if I'm just running around and doing all those different things, that's great. But if I'm doing those consistently through the standards, what's going to happen? Well, I'm probably going to want to join up with other people that have the same experiences as me and loves as me. So that gets me bonded closer together. Intellectually, I'm going to try to find out more about what I'm doing and explore that route. And spiritually, I'm going to feel so much better about myself, But as far as like team sports, that question goes, what we tried to do is see just the deeper meaning of team. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't get together. And that's what team sports class is. You go to class, we put you guys together in teams. You move about, you play other teams in whatever sports, basketball, floor hockey, and all those different sports. And a lot of the time it's dedicated to the movement. And so it's challenging as a physical education teacher to try to, as the movement's going on, try to get them to see a bigger picture. So our whole theme in class was efficiency. Because there's so much you can do in like a 45-minute class. So our whole basic theme is efficiency in class. So every single time that a game is over, boom, you got to get to the next rotation, boom, you got to get into your next game, bank, you got to get your players to subs in, boom, and I'm sitting there on the clock going, like, who's got the best efficiency score?
Yes.
Because then at the very end for like 5 minutes, we'll just talk about like, okay, what does it mean to be efficient on a team? What does it look like in the bigger grand scheme of things? But then they're all, sweating and they're looking at their clock and they want to run out to the next thing. So we've tried to take that little time in the beginning and the end and get more deeper into it. At this time we've done a bunch of like TED Talks of people that experience sports teams and what it means to be like, how do we take those lessons learned and apply them now to all the different things that we're doing. So a lot of this stuff we've done that, like talked about like a job like yours, like teaming. What does that mean? How does that look like in our class? But then how does it look like in what Swartic's doing for nursing on the fly and going everywhere? Well, you have to communicate well. You have to be humbled. You got to focus on the task. You can't get distracted. So a lot of it's been about that. And then just, watching different sports teams at play, like they've had to like come up with different quotes of what it means to be a great teammate on a team, and it doesn't have to be, we said, and for me, I said, I didn't really want it from an athlete. I wanted it from somebody else that is great at their job. And like, what does teamwork mean to them? Maybe they've never picked up a basketball before.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the long answer that you're getting, but
no.
And that's my problem too. Is like the students are like, Bauer, you talk too much.
Stop it! No. You keep it coming, Coach. Please keep it coming, because this is exactly what I want, right? And I love how you break it down, because yes, in a PE class, you are teaching students. Not everyone is going to be on the football field. Not everyone's going to be in the track, on the track running or throwing a shot. But
no,
the actual reality is the vast majority of those people are not doing any organized sporting outside of that class. So if you focus everything on, okay, it's all about winning, it's all about the actual physical sport, it doesn't make sense to the majority of people.
It's not going to connect. And here, the other thing is too, it's like, for like a student like you're captain of the football team, track team, right? And then you're in a World Games class. I think you were with me, right?
Good memory, Coach.
Of course, man. Of course, I remember all that stuff. But it's also like, it's important for the athlete that's there after school to actually be in those classes, because now they're teaming now versus being with a team after school. They're used to all the guys or the girls or whoever after school, and they've been with them. It's that crew. All right, so take that same like athlete out of that environment and put them in a PE environment. And a lot of people think it's like the exact same thing. Well, it's basketball. It's like, yeah, but not even close. So how does that kid function well? And I've had students in class who are like the best athletes in the world, but I've had other students perform better because they're I guess they're theme oriented versus, I'm better than this. I don't have to be in this class. So what I try to do, that one of the challenges is to have those students in class and saying, listen, you have a massive challenge right now because people are going to be looking to you as like a leader, like a beacon. So how do you manage yourself now in an environment like this versus an environment like varsity sport after school where you're competing for a state title?
Exactly.
And now you're going to be playing, basketball with a kid who,
he's going to catch a ball.
Right. What do you do? Like, what is like the nature of the person that comes out?
Yeah.
Right. And that can say a lot about, everybody, us as individuals, even right now. It doesn't even have to be, a class. It could be just anywhere that we go. And I think those are the lessons that you want to learn, I guess, early, and hopefully it transitions.
Oh, it definitely does. It does. But I did want to ask, as I have to say, just, thank God I went to Newton North, because they do have a lot of those options, right? And when I was a student, because I did a lot of sports outside of, after school, and I was part of that kind of team. Yep. When it came to picking physical education classes, a lot of the times I was picking classes that weren't just team sports, right? So that's why I did the world class with Ms. Bogger. I did a coaching class where I was like, it was a PE option.
Didn't you do dance?
I did dance as well. I did it I chose things that weren't part of my thing, and it was the best.
Again, you know what? So thank God you're saying this, because that's exactly what we want people to see it as. It's like physical education, health and wellness isn't just moving your body. There's a lot of class, like the coaching class. Yeah. There's a lot of the stress management class. I teach stress management, how to just, manage your stress, and a lot of deep breathing, a lot of meditative work, a lot of the stuff that we do in practice, where it's like you're being with your body. You do it so much. You're just connected with yourself. You try to get rid of distraction as much as possible. You focus on the task at hand. We had a lot of conversations like that when you were, I remember the first time that you threw 56, I think, as a junior. And I don't know, I just felt like approaching you and saying listen, try not to worry about trying to impress anybody. Just let's keep on working on what we're doing.
In high school or whatever school you're in, when you are doing physical education, it is the mind, the body, the whole of you. And it's not just how much can I sweat in a 45-minute class.
Exactly. exactly. But you also want that as well. That there's the great balancing part, and it's the challenge as the teacher is how do you keep them moving, but at the same time learning. Yes. So, there's you try all different things out, and that's what it's great about PE. You can try all different things out and get kids moving and just bring them in a little bit, talk to them, and then send them back out and in and out and in and out. We only see them twice a week. So, it's tough in that way as well. But, I think at the end of the day, the kids get, they understand what we're doing.
Yes.
And they appreciate it. But yeah.
For the most part, right? For the most part, yeah. So I do want to transition this into coaching, because that's how I mainly know. Yeah, I had Mike Bauer, Coach Bauer, I know him as, for one PE class, right? Just one PE class. But he was my coach since I was a freshman all the way through a senior. When I was a freshman, it was 2 seasons out of the 3 seasons. And ever since my sophomore year, all the way through senior year, he was my coach for all 3 sports I played all the way through high school. I saw Coach Bauer more than I saw any other adult in that building. I mean, like legitimately, seriously, every single day after school, for outside of like the 4 or 5 days in the year where there's no sports, I saw Coach Bauer. So let's talk about coaching. Okay. When you decided to do track and field, I know you did shot put for was it 1 or 2 seasons when you were in high school? Was 2. Just 2 seasons. Yeah, I know you did track and field for 2 seasons, and you threw
and then and also 1 in prep. So it was like 3 seasons.
3 seasons. But so how did you decide? Because you said that you started coaching both football and track at the same time. How did you decide track is something you wanted to do? And was football just a no-brainer, like I'm going to be a football coach?
It was, so the football thing was the freshman head football coach at that time. I went to high school with him. He graduated 2 years ahead of me, and he needed an assistant. And just through word of mouth, one of my friends says, after I graduated college, hey, what are you doing right now? Are you thinking about coaching? He said that there's an assistant job with this guy that we knew. So I just did it, and it was awesome,
Awesome.
And then the track thing, it wasn't even, I'm sitting at home because I don't know what I'm doing after college. Right. So I'm just chilling out, and I get a phone call from Coach Blackburn. So Coach Blackburn says, I got 12 guys down here throwing the shot put, and I don't know what I'm doing. And, well, he knows what he's doing. He knows right? He knew what he was doing. But he was like, I need help. I need help with these guys just to instruct them. I said, sure, no problem. So, it's only 2 blocks down the street, the high school. So I just walked down. And for a practice or so, probably an hour and a half or so, I just kind of teach them little basics of what I remembered from high school, And then at the end, Blackburn brings everybody in. He says, okay, this is Mike Bauer. He's going to be the new assistant track coach for us this year. And I'm like, well, I got nothing better to do right now, so I guess I got a job.
Yes.
So it all kind of organically really happened like that. And then it transitioned into the outdoor season. I was a baseball player, so I never threw the discus at all. So a lot of we were talking about, maybe some of the reasons why I really appreciate the throws, because I had to do a ton of studying, just to remember all the different things. Because I wasn't that the track type of guy in high school. I did 1 season and I didn't do it in college. So a lot of people are that I know come from that environment. So I'm coming from a different place.
Yes.
So I know with you, we had this weird language that we had all set up with ourselves, and nobody could understand what the heck we're talking about.
We want to get around, whack, get around, up, boop, bang, up, do, blah, boop, now, snap, bang, up, here, do, bang, balance, boom, boom, spot, drive.
It's just because that's how I learned it,
Yes.
That's how when I was doing all my research and just the way it just it flowed through my brain and how I understood it. And that's how I teach it. But I think that's also the other thing, is that's the reason why I appreciate the other athlete, whether it's football, whether it's track, whether it's just general, just conditioning or just a student. It's everybody learns in a completely different way. So, and that's the thing about with track that I love, so that's how I got into track. It was Blackburn that did it. He called me up. He just reeled me right in.
So Blackburn, rest in peace. Amazing. Amazing coach, right? Blackburn is heart and soul of track and field at Newton North.
Man, he made you take about a couple extra 100 throws during. Coach, I want to go. I can't throw anymore. Doesn't matter, dude. He's sitting there throwing the shots, and the discus is back.
he's legend, absolute legend. Yeah. It feels like, and it sounds like you kind of fell in love with the throwing because, like you said, you played baseball at Hobart. I mean, baseball was your go-to. Did you ever think about, let me give baseball coaching a season? Let me give it a shot. Never?
No. I kind of fell out of love with it, Like right around college freshman year, it was just like one of those things, sometimes in life, certain things you kind of lose your, luster for something. So it was just one of those things where I drifted away from, and I just focused my attention on football. So I never really had the urge to go back to baseball at all. It was great. It was fun. It was a ton of fun going through, but then it just became a little bit, I don't know. I wasn't connecting with it as much as I did in the past.
Makes sense.
I was really connecting with working out, weightlifting, football.
Yes.
I was kind of flowing to that a little bit more. And that was right after freshman year in college. So I never really had that urge at all. And then when coach told me about the track team, I did it. And then it's just another, a snowball effect happened with me.
Yes.
And it was just so much fun.
I love it. Okay. So let's go back to football, right? So football's, it's probably the funnest time of year for me when I was in high school. It was just, you have so much fun playing football. You're around the guys. It's the crew. There's so much, right? Football, there's so much, right? Emotion, energy, passion. It's everywhere. But what I want to know what your mindset is as a football coach. And I got to be honest, Newton North is the greatest, at least when I was there, was the greatest football team in the history of the football, right?
We were competitive.
Yes, exactly.
We were right there. We were here. We were never every year here, but we always hit everybody
as hard as we could. So what is the mindset of a coach, right? Of a competitive team, of a coach of a competitive team going into the season with a new set of freshman kids or a new set of JV kids or a new set of varsity kids? What is the mindset? What is the goal? Is it always win no matter what? Is it, I just want these students to learn? Where's your head and what's the goal?
And for me, it's just getting them. There's so much.
Okay.
The first thing is just to make sure that everybody's committed and everybody's there. The thing about that versus, track and team sport like football is everybody's got to buy in. Everybody's got to be there 100%, not even there attendance wise, but they're 100% mentally and the coachability as well. I think a big part is the thing about coaching football now, it's not like before, the really hardcore yelling and screaming. Students don't respond to those things anymore. And I never was that type of coach anyways. I mean, I was loud and I was passionate. And I think that's the way, as far as a football coach has to be. You have to be that way. And students want to see that. But also at the same time, you're yelling and you're screaming because that's what the environment accounts for. But it's never at. So for me, because again, I'm a teacher, I want to teach. I want to make sure the kids understand. And that's not just know things, but really how to conceptually use those things in a moment in time, practicality stuff. And in football, it's tough because you got another kid on the other side of the ball that wants to knock your head off, So there's that fine balancing act between really trying to get the kid to understand and know the assignment and know their responsibilities, but at the same time, really try to get that student to understand the concept of the moment. And a lot of kids do understand. I mean, you're going into football, you're going to understand that. It's a contact sport. Some kids, like you said, freshman year coming out for the first time, they get a good understanding of it and they might not come back. That's all right. And that's okay. That's fine. That's great. And other kids stick through it. And I think the big part is that you're there to make sure the kid knows that the coach wants you to succeed. And sometimes with all the screaming and yelling, and sometimes I don't like football in a lot of ways, Swart, because there's a lot of ego. There's a ton of ego in football. You know what I mean? Everybody knows everything. So what happens is a lot of that kind of sense of I know what I'm talking about gets in the way of trying to teach a kid. Luckily for me, I've had good staffs on North and South, where we'll butt heads, but at the end of the day, we know it's what's best for the kid. And we'll always make sure that we adapt things so the kid is feeling, first off, welcomed in the environment, wanted, that they actually have a role to play. Even if they're the last kid. We've had a ton of kids that are the last kid on the bench, but we're there every day for the kid. If he makes a catch in practice, everybody's fired up, because everybody's got a role, everybody's got a purpose. So if you have that, even from the best 11 best guys on the football field, they're just going to want to get better. They're going to want to perform better. It's there's a intrinsic, I guess, motivation that you want to get out of the student. And if it's all like this, well, they're going to go the other way. Yeah. So some will stay, some like that. And again, that's the nature of each player. And that's the challenge of a coach, especially for football.
Yeah.
There's so many kids now. And for me, it's you got to coach a certain way, but at the same time, you do have to adapt yourself to different people, because these are high school kids. They're not professionals. They're high school. You see, high school kids, just a few, years ago, they were just getting out of their diapers, not really, you know what I mean? They're not making a living out of this, but some kids do want to make a living out of this too. They want to go on to the next step. So there's this great, huge, balancing act. But I think the most important thing is that you make sure that the student knows that you're there for them, that they can call you or email you anytime with any questions, that you try to be proactive too in getting them, I guess, the information and the standards of whatever they need to bless you. So that's, that I think that's it. It's kind of no different than maybe, kids coming up from, 8th grade to the high school. There's certain expectations, they know it, but it's up to us to tell them that. But it's also up to us to go and, introduce ourselves at the same time, because it might be hard for, a freshman in high school to be like, hey, Mr. Bauer, how you doing? Coach Bauer, So it's got to be very welcoming, very inviting, but demanding as hell.
Yes.
Right. But demanding as hell with a ton of expectations. But at the same time, knowing that that student can do it, right? And then trying to figure out, getting them to know that. And a lot of kids do, but other kids don't. And they, some kids, you got to push over that edge. Yeah. And they, it's great. You see them have that success. So, there's so much that goes into it. There's so much.
And thank you for the answer. But I am going to pull a little bit more, because I do want you to separate the two, because you're right. At the end of the day, these are high school students. Yes, some people might be going on to play in college, but at the end of the day, you're coaching, you're teaching high school students. How do you coach? Go ahead by coaching on the same football team, the star athlete that has all the talent versus the kid who's probably not going to see much playing time. Is there a difference when you're coaching the two?
Absolutely.
Different?
There's a huge, the interactions are different. Just because, this kid, let's say, this kid who's on the field and starting and flying around, I mean, you can talk to this student differently just because of the knowledge base that's probably in their head, right? So think of an English class, and you're mixing the honors AP kids with students that are, they're still struggling.
Yeah.
And blending them all together in one classroom and everything mixed in between, right? So you wouldn't teach the same exact way, you have to separate things out.
Yeah.
But you demand the same things, being on time, working hard, treating everybody. That's a constant, right? And that's the expectations of that. But then, of course, if there's a student that's not getting it, but busting their tail every single day, you know, I'm going to be a lot more, I guess, like, I'm going to be intellectual with them, I guess, and I'm still going to be intellectual with the other guys. It just might be a little bit more remedial, if that's okay to say, you know?
Makes sense, of course.
Yeah, right. I might be a little bit more kind of tender-hearted, you know, because you still need those guys around, and it's like the last thing they want to do is get like yelled at for being there when they're like, hey, listen, I'm just like trying to do my best here. I just want to be a part of this thing.
Yeah.
Versus a kid who I know that I can like grind and push and be really tough on them in a good way.
Yeah.
But like, because they get it, you know? So again, there's a continuum between like that kid who's like, go get it, rock hard, rah, to the other one that's very like, you know, running around. Their pads are kind of like bobbling all around their helmets, you know what I mean? And there's everybody in between.
Yeah.
So you treat them the same way as far as expectations goes about being on the team, you know, doing the right thing, you know, the spiritual thing. Emotional thing.
Yeah.
Social thing. Really, it's a lot of that. But like intellectually, I might push another kid a little bit more than another because the other kid just doesn't know the concept of what's going on. But then another kid, I'm going to be like, all right, so what happens in this situation? What would you do in that situation if they just shifted to this formation right there? How would you move the defense? What would you be screaming out? I can say that to you because you'd be like, say, roll, 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 bump, 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 shift, 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 go, 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 go. Where some other kid at the end of the bench is going to be like, what, you know? So, and I get that, you know?
Yeah.
It's a family atmosphere, you know, and you want everybody, it's also an educational experience.
Yes.
You know, it's not separated out of the high school. And I think a big part of all athletics, whether sports teams or even any extracurricular activity, it's always got to go back to like the bigger meaning of the high school that you're in. So wherever, like, what is the mission statement of the high school?
Yeah.
It should mirror what is happening out on the football field or the track, you know? So, it's like that. And PE is the same way. PE it's everybody's mixed.
Exactly.
You know?
Everybody.
There's all different talents and learning styles and languages and disabilities, right? It's awesome. Because it's the challenge of it is so grand. Not for the teacher, but also for a student to mesh with all of that.
Exactly.
You know, and again, even on a football team too, Swartik, you did a great job because you were that kid that was like, you could tear anybody's head off at a blink of an eye. But you also made that like last kid on the bench feel like he was important. And I think that is, if you want to have a great team, it's a great, great team that is tough to beat. Right. That's the mentality that you have to have out of like your leaders like that. Right. And that's the reason why, hey, we might not have won every single game, but we were not an easy team to beat.
Absolutely.
And we beat some teams.
Exactly.
You know,
thank you. Thank you so much for that, Coach, because yes, it is super important. It really is super important. But I do want to get to a little bit, I don't want to, a hot topic, but people complain a lot about us millennials thinking, all we care about are participation trophies and we don't care about winning, right? But Coach, you were so good. You were so good at always having the goal be the win, but the pathway to that win, not being solely like beating someone over the head with a hammer, right? Like, and I really, really appreciated that because you felt it. We knew what you wanted. The whole team wants to win, and we knew that was the goal. But it was never like F off if you're not like the best player on the field right now, right? I mean, that it just wasn't what we felt.
No.
Yeah. The transition between football and track. Yes, you have to be loud. You're on a 100-yard field, right? And when you're coaching someone in the shop, but you're standing right next to them. So yeah, you're not going to be as loud. But
I don't know about that, Q. I'm pretty loud at times. Sometimes when you're throwing, boom!
Right? No, exactly.
But it's a different loud, yeah.
It is a different loud. Coach, you were almost like two different people, but the exact same person at the same time. Can you please talk about that a little bit? Coaching football versus coaching track. How does that compare?
Swartik, you didn't have somebody on the other end of the toe board that wanted to beat your head in after you threw the shot put.
Exactly.
So that's really what it is. It's so much more individual, even though football was as well, because we had to split off and you really had to know your individual job that well. But then you had to bring it back and it had to mesh with all the other components. And that's what made it hard. It's like you have to have this like synchronized dance with the football team, with all different people, with discus and shot put. It's just you doing a solo act.
Exactly.
So the mentality is so different, where some people on the football field, they'll feel very comfortable because they're surrounded by 10 other guys. So they can be much more into like themselves, and focus on what they have to do because they know they have a lot of support. When you're in that shot put ring or discus ring, man, it's just you, and you got a ton of eyes looking at you. So I got to be a lot more gentle in a lot of ways with the shot and just the way that I coach, because there is a lot more of that to it. There's a lot more of like being about the process versus, oh, that throw was sucky, or somebody's watching me here over there. It's just like, it's not easy. So I think with the shot, it's a lot easier because you can just focus on this one thing.
Yes.
And you can really break it down and you can take your time with it. You're not in this big, huge rush to figure out a game plan to, present, before a game, and everybody's got to figure it out, and it can get frustrating, and it can get crazy like that. But I don't know, the shot put it's a lot more, and I don't want to say intellectual than football. It's not, it's not. They're both intellectual in the same way, but it's just you. So there's got to be a lot more like peace and harmony, right?
That's such a big part of it, Coach. That's such a big part.
There's got to be a lot of peace and harmony, and the students got to understand that about the peace and the harmony. So when something wrong goes on, in football, we might be a little like, come on, let's get it before, somebody is running over us. We don't want that because
right.
Where in shot, it's more like, don't worry about it. Let's take our time. There's a lot more patience, I guess, in it. There's a lot more, I don't know, I want to say there's a lot more friendliness in it.
And it makes a lot of sense because you're right. And this is the basic, right? Because we knew each other so well by like junior, senior year. Coach would know, after a practice, he'd be like, Q, what's going on at home? Well, what's going on with the fret? Like, you just are not in the same vibe, mindset, space, right? You would know. You would always ask if everything's going on okay, because you could see it in the circle, or if I'm messing up with things I don't usually mess up with. And on the football field, it might be harder to see or might be harder to tell, but at the same time, there's a lot more going on.
Because every week. Right. Well, because it was because it just for me, it's about, my job is to be about you guys. It's not to be about me, So I don't want to impose all my stuff on people. Then I can't see other people. You know what I mean? So if I'm teaching kids, whatever hangups I got to put them off to the side, because I got to be thinking about this person that's in front of my face and what's best for them. So for you, and because I saw you so much, it was easier. Just you probably just tell by your look,
Exactly.
Because you got this great smile, walk down the hall. But if you if something was just, it could be just a little, I'd know, And I think that's what I try to do with a lot of the students is just really be mindful of what they're saying. Body language is huge. And I can always tell. I remember the days of being a high school student. So I think that's so important for me. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I think that was,
of course.
But to be focused in on the student is the most important thing. And then trying to, mesh myself to that. And I think it goes both ways.
Oh, definitely.
That's the thing. It's the student or the athlete's got to be very teachable and very coachable. I mean, that has to happen, right? That doesn't mean that they have to agree with everything. We can always have like banter back and forth. And I think that's awesome too, because that's a sign of a great relationship, great trust, and great intellectual wellness at the same time, you know?
And you were great about that, because I remember the transition from going from a slide to a spin. And for those who don't know, I'll show something on the screen or something.
Stay in.
But I remember that transition, and that was one of the toughest things. And then like 2 weeks in, I was like, this doesn't feel right. A week in, I was like, Coach, are you sure this is? And you were very good about telling me, like, you would say, put your feet this way, have you spin this way. And if this doesn't feel right, we'll do it a different way. And you were good about the receiving. And then telling me, hello. Which one is that?
That's my 3-year-old. She just escaped from downstairs. So.
Good for her.
So, yeah.
But you were good. You were good about receiving and then, going back and forth. I loved both of them. No, so just to wrap this up, like we were saying since the beginning, the world seems like it's like falling apart, right? And I really appreciated it. For those who don't know, Coach and I haven't talked in months, years, and he sent me this amazing text just telling me, I hope everything's okay. But I want to talk about that as a teacher, right? Yep. And it's hard. It's hard to go into class and pretend what's happening outside of the building, outside of the, the gym, or as a coach outside of the field, that nothing else matters but this. How do you go about going through a functional practice, having a game, being a teacher, when it seems like the world is falling apart outside of the building?
As far as classes go, I got to admit it's tough. And I have to admit, and I'm getting better at all this stuff too, is just allowing the space for the kids to talk. And I got to get over my own stuff too, because I feel like as a teacher that teaches twice a week, and the kids might not connect with me as much, then I'm allowing them a space to communicate about certain things that are going on in the world. And I don't know, I just felt like, I didn't feel uncomfortable, but I just felt like the environment might have felt uncomfortable. And looking back at all that stuff right now, it's like, geez, I can't be thinking about that. I got to like break out of that barrier and some things I have done and opened it up to conversation, but I got to do it a lot more. And I think what we did as a PE staff, once everything, really started coming to a head last week, we met and we said that we wanted to add an assignment to the students, like final list of different things that they can do. So going actually back to that species thing that we were talking about. So we said the species list is like important for us, like to be a well-rounded, healthier, more unified individual. So
I'm sorry, Coach. Can you just explain a little bit more about what that species thing is?
Okay, so species is the wellness dimension. It composes all the different like dimensions of health and wellness that are in our life, right? Yes. So our social health, our physical health, emotional, intellectual, career, environmental, spiritual. So all of those things are surrounding us, right? So we teach through the physical to try to get to everything else.
Makes sense.
So what we did is we said, you know what? Go out and through the species list, be an anti-racist activist. So so some people want to know more. Like, what can I do? It's like I thought of, I can do it as best as I can, but I can do so much more. So what we did is we gave them assignments saying, okay, through the species list, go through things that a person can do. That would be an anti-active racist. So like social, it's like, go and communicate and talk to a friend, reach out to a friend and seeing how they're doing. Physical, we said like go and run in a road race that sponsors maybe somebody who lost their life, with some sort of injustice. Yeah. We go through all the huge lists, like intellectual, read a book about a minority that's been, persecuted in a bad way, just to gain insight. And there's so many different things that we can do. So for us in the PE department, we just actually had this discussion before I got on with you. It's like, now what can we do in PE to make like anti-racism much more like explicit. Like we've done it, but maybe like it hasn't been as like explicit. Like the World Games class. Yes. Funny, right? The World Games class kind of came out of that, like trying to get a deeper kind of sense of like sports in the world and, where are these different, sports coming from. But again, we got to do a better job of like really being specific about civility and anti-racist actions that we can all take. But the trick for us is like, how do we connect it to physical education? Because we want it to make it us. And I think that was a really good starting point for us as a PE staff. It's like, well, let's take the foundation of us, this, the wellness dimensions, and have students reflect back to us all the different things that we can all do, to deepen our, sense of, I guess, anti-racism or just equality or just, I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So we're trying to now like combine it with, because that's what it is, man. I mean, like our nation is not a very healthy nation right now, obviously, in more ways than one, physically, of course, with COVID,
right?
Right. But now it's like all, the social and the emotional things that are going on, the spiritual things that are going on right now. And I think the biggest part of this all, it comes to like the intellectual.
Yes.
Because we have to just broaden like our minds as much as our minds we feel have been broadened. We got to keep broadening. We got to keep opening up. We got to keep on looking at ways where we are getting out of our own shoes and seeing somebody else. Yeah. And I think that's tough, and that's, I think for me, that's why I try to do teaching, but I'm a human being too. Sometimes I'm stuck in my own shoes of certain things, I got to get out of them. And I feel like I do a really good job with it, but you can always do better, Q.
Right.
First one, best one, and keep getting better, right?
Keep getting better.
So if we're doing our best today, then, great. Keep getting better.
Exactly. Perfect. Just perfect. Right? But listen, the reason I wanted you to come on the show, right? Yeah. And of course, whatever you guys are doing for PE, fantastic. Whatever you think is important is going to be a better change for as you personally as a coach, fantastic. Yep. But coach, if it ain't broke, it don't fix it. I don't know about the PE, so that's something I can't speak to.
Right.
But as an athlete that you coached, both in track and in football, I always felt so welcome. So I felt I was the captain of both teams. Like I can't for 1 second pretend that I had a different struggle that is racist or anything like that, prejudice in my personal experience. Right. And I know that I'm just extroverted person. So it's very different for every specific person. But I did just want to let the people know my senior year, right? Our shot put team, our throwers team, me, Jamel, Young, Carl. I mean, it was the rainbow of races. And
we were like, people. Exactly. It was awesome. It was like the United Nations.
Exactly. And we kicked ass.
And we were the best.
Yeah, we were.
And we were the best. That was the 4 guys over 50 year.
Yeah, 4 guys over 50.
And that's what it's all about. If you can be a part of something where everybody's connected and you're enjoying your time there, then that's the thing. It's like then everything else takes care of itself.
Everything else definitely does.
It does. I mean, if you're following your heart and if you're in an environment where other people appreciate who you are, then you're gonna go far, and that's what I'm trying to do, and it might not come off all that. Sometimes I know I got to keep working on being a better coach and a better teacher, right? That, there's certain times I, go home at the end of the day. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I treated that person fairly or right. Or maybe I, blew up at somebody by accident.
It happens.
We're all human beings. So,
exactly.
But I think always at the end of the day, if you can just, be satisfied with the job that you did and happy you did it to your best and And what else are you going to do, you know?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Coach. Last thing before we leave, it's the COVID situation. Things are starting to open up, right? And I found out through the COVID situation, self-care is the best care. If I'm healthy, that means the people around me are healthy.
Yep.
And just as someone who is surrounded by health and wellness, physical education, the whole nine, any advice to people out there, students specifically, what can they do to keep their physical health, their health and wellness, their mental health, all of the above, good and dandy until things get back to normal?
All right. So this is what I do. So at each class, I leave them with like 5.5 things. One, make sure that we're exercising, right? Get yourself out. Make sure you're exercising to the standards. I don't care what you're doing, what type, if you're doing anything, if you're TikToking all day long, then TikTok your butt off, right? Just as long as you're following the standards, even just like walking around the block or gardening or just get your body moving. That's one. Two, make sure that you're eating well, right? Because being at home, it can, we can dig into the cabinets a little bit more. So just always being mindful of what we're eating, just like the grains, the fruits, the vegetables, the dairies, if you're not allergic to dairy, then don't have the dairy, but the proteins, right? You know what I mean? It's just like all those different things. So I remind them about all those different things. Sleep is another one. That's the third one. So make sure that we are sleeping. So you got to get those 8 to 10 hours a night. And they're actually doing it now because they don't have to wake up for school. Exactly. So their sleep is like tremendous now. They're like, yeah, I get about like 9.5 hours of sleep now. Where before it was like on average what I get at school is it would be 7. So that's the other one. So the other one is meditate, do mindfulness work, whatever it is. I mean, it can be anything. That's the great thing. It's like exercise. I don't have to lift weights the whole time to be in shape. I can, do a lot of different things. So just sitting and breathing, listening to, nature, anything that gets your mind focused just on one specific thing, being there, yoga, any of that type of stuff, right? That's hard for some people, but, start it simple with just like counting activities, something like that. And the fifth one I tell them is to laugh. Make sure we're laughing.
Yes, right? Coach.
Yes, because look, what happens is we actually did a unit on it, and what is going on is they're laughing less. Because when they're at school, you know what it's like at school, you're laughing like all day long. Yeah. Because you're surrounded by your friends. So much stuff is going on. It's making you just crack up. Yeah. But now being at home and you see their faces, in the beginning, they're just like, So it's like they gotta laugh, and I was trying to read up on like how many times is like a teenager or a kid laugh a day. It's something like up to like 300 to like 500 times a day. Or an adult will laugh like maybe 15 to 20 times a day. I mean, if you're talking about like the health and wellness of the brain,
exactly,
that's massive.
Yeah.
So laugh. And then the little half other one was make sure you get out in the sunlight. Don't be cooped up in the house. Right. So that's the little bit I try to leave all my students with, those 5-6 things.
That's an amazing list, Coach. We got to keep in touch. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Of course.
Thank you. You are the best. And I hope everything's working out well for you. And it is. Be safe. Make sure you're covering up a lot.
Of course. Thank you so much, Coach. I'll keep you in touch and I'll let you know when this is coming out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, bud.
Right,
say hi to everybody. Say hi to Faisal Faze. Make sure you're saying hi to your sister for me and everybody at home, okay?
Will do. Thank you, Coach.
All right, bye.